Hello. So this is gonna be like a super informal tutorial where I just kind of show you how to get a DMX scene started in VRSL 2.0. I don't know. I kind of wanted to not leave you guys hanging with nothing, and in terms of documentation, and also I feel confident enough in the workflow that I can probably just ad-lib this pretty easily without too many issues. So yeah, I guess we can get started. So I guess the first thing I'm gonna say is that instead of Sound Switch, we're gonna use QLC Plus because it's free and much easier to get working, in my opinion. At least regarding DMX and such. So yeah, we're gonna do that instead. So first we're going to start with a new scene. So let's say you start with a new scene, right? Completely blank canvas, nothing here. So the first thing you're gonna want to do is we'll go ahead and see right here, after assuming that you have everything installed and such. But once you have everything installed, you should see up here it says VRSL control panel. Right, go ahead and click that. The first thing you'll notice is that it says current depth light, directional light. So the first thing about this panel is that what it'll do for you is determine if your scene is VRSL ready. One of the more common problems is that a lot of people run into is that the depth texture is not enabled, and this will ensure that the depth texture will be enabled before you could even do anything. So right now it's detecting that the directional light is the default directional light is providing a depth texture, which is true. It does do that. So if you wanted, you could leave it in there. However, some people don't like having the light that it actually generates, actually be inside of their scene. So what you can do is, and this will also simulate what would happen if you didn't have the light. So you can delete the light, and it'll say, please ensure directional light for depth. Object is in your scene to ensure your lights work properly. And you're like, okay. So then you can click this button right here, and it'll spawn another directional light, but this time it'll be set to black with lower intensity and such, just like the proper prefab does, so that it doesn't actually affect like your scene a little bit at all, if at all. Okay, the second thing you're going to notice is that it says please ensure the VRSL local UI control panel prefab is in your scene. Now this prefab is going to be kind of like your central hub. What it also is it's the panel that users are going to be using to control the intensity of the brightness locally for them, so that they won't get blinded by the lights and such. But as I said, it also acts as the central hub for all your global settings are going to be stored and such. So you're going to want that, right? So you just go ahead and click that, and it'll spawn one just like that, just for you. And once you spawn one, you notice you get a bunch more options now. So with that being said, let's assume you've got this now, and you've got this mask panel you don't know where to do. Where to go now? So you're pretty much like 20% of the way there. So let's just start building a little bit of a scene so that we have something to actually get the lights working on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make a small plane or something. Just something for the lights to sit on. Maybe make a wall. Or it could just be a complete derp and just look up the inverted cube prefab that comes with VRSL. Look, we got a box now. It's the same one that's used in the example scenes, but you can use it as well just for this tutorial. I'm going to use it for this tutorial. So in this scene, we've got a panel and nothing else. So the first thing you'll notice is that the grid mode. So this is the grid type you're going to be using. Now there's 3 grid types that VRSL supports. There's the horizontal, the vertical, and the legacy grid type. The horizontal grid type is the one that I'm going to recommend everyone use because it's the easiest and it gives you the most features. So we're just going to stick with the horizontal grid pattern. Now show DMX info on scene. We'll get back to that once we've actually spawned some fixtures. So how do you spawn some fixtures? Well, you could go into the prefabs folder and actually drag it in there if you're like a pleb. but like, look at this. We got a new way to do things. So if you click this button here, show options, you get some more buttons, and then you get some more features. I'll explain this in a bit. And you get 2 more drop downs: show prefab DMX prefab spawn buttons and show audio link prefab spawn buttons. Since we're doing DMX, we'll go ahead and click that button, and you'll get a bunch of more buttons here. So there's going to be 2 things we're going to need. We're going to be setting up a scene so that we can control the lights directly from inside the editor. The steps are pretty much the same if you were to try to do it with VR chat, except you'll be spawning the ViewSharp video player instead of the desktop to editor screen. So let's start with that. So first you're going to want, since we're in the horizontal prefab mode, we're going to want to go ahead and click the horizontal DMX reader screen desktop to editor. So go ahead and click that, and it'll spawn the prefab. Now what this prefab does, it basically just spawns the UDesktop duplication script onto a plane, and as well as a camera to generate the render texture that the lights will read from. And the UDesktop duplication prefab will basically put your screen onto as a texture, like your literal monitor screen as a texture inside of Unity. And with that, you can actually send data through the pixels of your monitor into Unity. The same concept kind of works. It's as if you were streaming into Unity without actually streaming into Unity. Without all the flaws of streaming into Unity, let's say. So, alright, we've got that set up, and now we want to spawn fixtures. So, got a bunch of buttons here for some prefabs here. I won't go into like creating your own with the surface shader prefab. We're just going to use the default spotlights for now. So let's say you want a spotlight. So you see here where it says fixture prefabs horizontal. Depending on what mode you type, will determine which of the what prefab type these spawn. So like if I were to switch to vertical, you'll see it switched to vertical. These would spawn the vertical versions of those prefabs. We switch to legacy, would spawn the legacy versions of those prefabs. But like I said, we're going to stick with horizontal, so go ahead, keep it on horizontal. Now, we want the horizontal spotlight prefab, so just go ahead and click that. It'll pop a little spotlight here. Now we've got one spotlight fixture here. And you can see it's already selected for us, and you can see all the parameters inside of it. Now, with our little spotlight here, we can go ahead and move it, place it somewhere. Let's go ahead and add 2 of them, just for the sake of, because we want to and we can. So what I like to do is invert one of those. So what I can do, so we could be a pleb and click on the actual spotlight itself and go through these settings and try to find the invert pan button. Or if you want, we can stay inside this panel here, and I can show you the second feature of this new update, which is the fixture list. So this will give you a list of all the fixtures based on where they are listed. On the audio link side, it'll sort them based on what band they're trying to react to by default. It won't update during runtime because this doesn't work at runtime, but this is mostly for pre-runtime editing. And this will show you what fixtures are in your scene based on what universe they're in when you're in DMX mode. And you'll also see up here at these purple buttons, this actually disables or enables the DMX or audio link features, well, specifically their render textures that they use to control the lights or whatever shaders you might have. So since we're not using audio link, we can go ahead and disable audio link, and that will disable the render texture as well inside of the editor, which will give us some more frames within the editor. Of course, this doesn't really affect how it works in VR chat, but this is just nice to help with the profiling things when you press play. So both of these are going to be in Universe 1 by default. So if we can go ahead and open up Universe 1, you can see both of them here. They're both set to channel 1, which is what we want, which is also known as Sector 0 if we're going by the old sector system. So we can go ahead and, since they're movers, we want to go ahead and let them stay on the sector system. So we'll both set them to the sector system. And then for the second mover, we'll go ahead and invert its pan. Now, when you change these settings, these settings, as you see, are a duplication of the settings inside of the inspector for the spotlights, for the lights themselves. But they don't work exactly the same. So when you make a change, you're gonna have to want to hit apply changes. This way, you can apply all the changes to all of the fixtures at once. If you hit discard changes, obviously it'll reset the changes we've made. See, it undid sector mode, and it also undid our pan inversion. So we're gonna have to re-enable those and hit that. And then if we hit apply, now if we look at it inside the inspector, the pan for this fixture is now inverted, as well as it's been set to sector mode. And that's basically the gist. If you change, like for example, if you were to change the mappings and you hit apply changes, it would also update the mappings inside of the list as well. And you see in sector 1, it corresponds to channel 14, since you know every sector is every 13 channels basically. To an extent, with an asterisk there. But we're gonna just leave them both on channel 1 for the sake of simplicity. Okay, so let's see. Where are we now? Where are we? Let's take a recap. Where are we? We've got a desktop duplication screen, so we can read DMX from one of our monitors, and we have 2 spotlights that are going to read from that screen. Okay, now what? Well, now we need to actually set up the grid node and actually get that to work, and set it up so that when our screen appears, when we press play, we have the grid where it needs to be, reading from QLC plus. So let's set that up. I didn't actually set this up correctly, so I'm going to make a new, like I told you, I'm completely ad-libbing this, so excuse me if this is just completely unprofessional. But we're gonna go ahead and take a peek at my OBS window here, because this is what we're going to be using to what they call it. I forgot how to set it back to phase source and I forgot how to set it back to the default way it looks like in OBS, but the idea is basically the same. So let me go ahead and hit this. I think this is, yeah, there you go. Now you can see my OBS. Okay, so you see inside of OBS, this might not be how it looks for you, but this is a preview program mode. I have forgotten how to set it to just be normal mode. I don't think I can set it while I'm recording, but it's not that important. So what is important is this is the live screen right here of OBS and what's going to actually be shown. So first, let's get QLC Plus going, since we need that. So we can go ahead and start that up. I'll put a link in the download description so you can see where QLC Plus actually would be, where to get it and such. But we'll go ahead and get it started, and I'll show you where you need. So you have QLC Plus here, and once you've got QLC Plus open, now you need the grid node. So assuming you have downloaded the grid node, it should be located once you've extracted and opened it up. The beta should look like this, and you have a bunch of files here. What you're going to want to do is you want to click on the .exe here. And what that should do, this is spawned on a different screen, is it should spawn something like this. So now we've got a little GUI here, which is new, by the way, and as well as the actual bar itself. By default, it should be set to horizontal mode, so there shouldn't be anything you should really need to change. All you need to do is go into QLC Plus here. Let's start with that. Start with QLC Plus, go into inputs, outputs, and you'll notice it says Universe 1 input none. Right, so you want to enable ArtNet on Universe 1. So what you want to do is you want to go into mapping, and this is ArtNet. You want to go to whatever your first local IP address is, and set output, and check the output button here. You can also check it on 127.0.0.1. That's your loopback one. That will also work. I actually recommend using the loopback one. As you see here, I have it set already. So you want to go ahead and click output and check that box right there. And that will output DMX ArtNet onto the first universe on the loopback IP address, which is the default IP address. As you see, it says localhost. That's just the default IP address that VRSL will read from. So once you've got that set up, you can go ahead and hit start node, and that will enable the VRSL grid node here down here. And after that, you can go ahead and add a fixture. So by clicking that green plus button, you can add a fixture, and assuming you have the correct fixture type installed, I'll have that linked as well. You can go ahead and click the standard mover spotlight, and just go ahead and add one to universe 1. And there we go. We've got the standard mover spotlight. I'm not going to show you how to actually program with QLC Plus, but I will show you how to at least get some output, and so you can make sure everything works. So we can go ahead to the simple desk here, and you'll see all the channels that the fixture supports. And if you want to make sure that it works, go ahead and open up your grid and start to change some of these values. So if you change some of these values, you'll see some of the lights, some of the squares on the grid will start to light up. And if it starts to light up on this first channel right here all the way on the left, that means it's working properly and you got it working. So once you've got that working, now for the fun part. So you'll want to create a scene in such that your grid node will be locked to the bottom of your screen, because that's where the horizontal grid is supposed to go. So what you want to do is go to your sources, add a source, make a window capture, call it like VRSL grid horizontal or something. And then you'll want to navigate to the VRSL grid, which should be a java.w.exe, just right here. Here's the grid node. Click OK. And the grid node should already be in a 16:9 configuration. So assuming you are streaming at 720p, which is I think 1480 by 720p. I forgot what the resolution is, but it's a 720p screen, or 1920 by 1080. It should fit nice and snug already in your window, and then you can just move it down here to the very bottom till it snaps, and then go ahead and lock it so you don't accidentally move it anywhere. Since this is in preview program mode, I actually have to switch the preview to the program. So if I hit that button, you should now see it at the bottom here of your screen. And now we are ready to actually start sending DMX. Almost. If we were to be streaming this, we would hit stream, we would hit start stream, and then we can start controlling DMX on the grid node with the QLC Plus. But since we're going into the editor, we're gonna actually want to right click and go to full screen projector program and set it to one of our monitors. Now this is the catch here, is that you're gonna need an extra monitor that is a 16:9 resolution, so 720p or 1080p, that you don't mind losing for this technique. So I have a small 720p monitor, like a really small 720p monitor plugged in just for this purpose. It was like a $50 monitor, and literally a throwaway monitor that I set. Like I said, it's 720p, and I set it as a full preview. And now it is appeared on my monitor. You can't see it unless I add a display capture here. Add a display capture. See display 4. It's literally just a copy of whatever is already on the main, coming out of the main source. So now that that's coming out on a second monitor, on a throwaway monitor, I can go ahead and hit play inside of Unity. So let's go back to Unity here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Now I can just transition. There. Now we're back in Unity, and you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's the black bar is still there. It won't look like that for you. It won't be on the bottom of the screen for you because you are literally watching the recording of the OBS recording that this is being used for. But you should see in your OBS preview the black bar still on your extra window there. So assuming you did everything right, you go ahead, you can hit play. And you'll notice that the game window will kind of take over your screen. So because this technique still needs both the game window and scene open, you can kind of take your game window, click and drag it, and kind of pop it over to the side. So now that both the game window and the scene view are open. So get the scene and the game view open. You do need that both of these windows to be open for this to work. Otherwise, for whatever reason, this texture here doesn't update. But yeah, as you see, it's literally the window that we are viewing right now appearing as a texture inside of Unity. That's a pretty cool feature. And because I hate messing with the script, I've added during runtime, the VRSL control panel will detect whether or not you have this desktop prefab installed. And so now it'll give you the option to switch the monitor that this prefab is looking for. So right now it's looking at my main monitor, which doesn't have the black bar on. So we need to put it on that secondary monitor I have that has that extra black bar. So that would be display 4 for me. And you see, oh, there it is. There's the black bar right there. And now, for a moment of truth, assuming everything is working properly, we go into QLC Plus. Let me go ahead and shrink it so we can actually see. Love me, QLC Plus. Become small. Oh, there we go. So if I turn on intensity, turn on the red channel. Ah, look at that. The lights have turned on. Now you can control the lights inside of Unity. So right now they're on like a really tiny beam. So if I make it a bigger beam, then you can actually see it's nice and blue. And if we want to move it, we can increase the movement speed a little bit and then just pan it around or tilt it. And since you know this is inverted, this is set to pan invert, they'll just copy the invert, pan, invert, tilt of this one and just invert it. Right? I'm sorry, I'm not explaining that really well, but you kind of see what it's doing. It's just kind of mirroring it, right? That's a pretty cool feature. And yeah, and just like I said before, you got gobos as well, so you can go switch the gobos with this channel. If you want to make it spin, you can use this channel and it'll start to spin in one direction. If you want to spin in the other direction, just keep going and it'll start spinning the other direction. That'll let you kind of like make it flip around if you want. And again, make it smaller. You can make it flash, make it strobe, and yeah, there you go. You got VRSL working right inside of Unity. And this is a good technique for testing your scene out and making sure everything works for when you stream it. Like I said, when you stream it into VR chat, the concept's going to be pretty much exactly identical. There's going to be a monitor here that the camera is going to be picking up. That this camera is going to be picking up and be grabbing the texture down here at the bottom so that the lights here can read them properly. Of course, you might not want to use this flat screen as your main monitor, right? You can of course move it later before you hit play. You can just move it far away and it'll still work just as it always would. Or you could use it as your main monitor. This camera is set up so that it will only pick up this monitor specifically by default, so you won't have to worry about people walking into it. But I would actually recommend just tucking this away somewhere So if you like unpause it, you can just kind of tuck it away or over here, or just way the hell out so that nobody ever sees it ever again. Hit play. Go ahead, hit play. Use the tool to switch your monitor back. Voila, there you go. Now you're controlling your lights. Still. But yeah, thanks for listening to this really crappy tutorial that I did just now because I wanted to. Hopefully this can kind of explain at least get you started. I don't know. A lot of people are really confused about how to get it started. At least get it working. So yeah, hopefully I'll make a better tutorial in the future. I keep saying that, but I feel like I won't ever will. But anyway, I gotta get back to packing for this trip, so I'll catch y'all later. See ya.